Now, some of you may not know very much about waves, but waves coming crashing down come with a lot of force. A lot of people have thought about harnessing that force as a renewable energy source. But just have a look at that. When waves come as sets and you're stuck in the water, you pretty much don't have much time to bring your head up and breathe. Experienced surfers know how to handle sets of waves, but the rest of us not so much. So when crises happen in the world, how do we recover and come up for air, right? When we're being pummeled by one wave after another. We're gasping for breath, we're coming up from the wave and from the full force. Look at that. They're only short breaking waves, right? They're not really big monster kind of waves. Think about those big waves in Hawaii, or in those big surf competitions where they go kilometers out just to ride those massive waves. What do we do when tsunamis hit? And I'm talking here analogously. I mean, we've all become subjects of the pandemic virus, COVID-19. That's pretty global. That's had some huge effects. Even here in this amazing touristy place, although not quite touristy, but remote, I should say. I went up to the service station to put gas in the car, it's petrol, and I asked for a local map. Now, 5 years ago, there were so many maps that were hanging from the bookshelf at the service station, and this time I got the following. I'm sorry, miss, there are no maps for you to take, because you see, the ink is created somewhere else, mostly in China. And you need advertisers to pay for advertising space on the map so that it's worth their while for us to print them using the ink and the paper that's coming from somewhere else. So to cut a long story short, the supply chain has been disrupted, and so there are no maps here. Which is a fascinating thing, because my kids just told me, why don't you just use Google Maps? And to be honest, both the in-car navigation system and Google Maps is not like having a complete view of an area. So in designing the future, I want you to start thinking about waves and sets of waves. Quite possibly in America, for instance, it just wasn't the global pandemic. There was the election, there was the riots as a result of injustice. There were so many things that happened in 2020. So studying waves and their properties is pretty important to understand how we will cope with waves of events. Some of those events may be fantastic, but for the greater part, some of those events may be catastrophic.